My dad collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. I need to stay with him, so I can't go on our honeymoon. You'll have to go alone. I was shocked. My long-awaited honeymoon was suddenly cancelled. Mark insisted I should still go by myself, but who goes on a honeymoon alone? As I stood there, trying to process everything, someone appeared in front of me. My legs felt weak as I recognized who it was. It was my father-in-law, the same man who was supposed to be in the hospital. Father-in-law, why are you here? I asked, completely confused. My name is Sarah, and I've been with Mark for 5 years. Just this summer, he finally proposed to me. Looking back, those 5 years felt like a long journey. We had started visiting each other's parents after dating for about a year. Mark even met my parents, who live out of town. But every time we talked about marriage, he'd say, "We'll get married once work settles down," without giving me a clear answer. At one point, he even joked, "Why don't we just stay like this?" That made me worry. "Mark, I'm almost 30. If we're not serious about marriage, we should break up," I told him firmly. That's when he finally proposed. After that, we planned everything together. Our parents were already close, and we had decided on the wedding details, the guest list, and even our honeymoon destination. Everything was ready, and we had just finished our small, intimate ceremony with family and close friends. Mark planned to spend the evening with his parents after the wedding, while I had dinner with my parents, who had come from out of town. Later that night, I went home alone, double-checked our honeymoon luggage, and sent Mark a text. "Mark, you did great today. I'm all ready for our honeymoon tomorrow. I can't wait for our trip to Italy." But I didn't hear back from him. I figured he must have fallen asleep after such a busy day. Before falling asleep myself, I thought, I hope he doesn't oversleep for our flight tomorrow. The next morning, I woke up to a phone call from Mark. "Sarah, something terrible has happened," he said quickly. "My dad collapsed and has been rushed to the hospital. You'll have to go on the honeymoon alone today." "What? What do you mean?" I exclaimed, completely stunned. "Your dad was perfectly fine at a wedding yesterday." "I know, I'm just as shocked as you are," Mark said. "I need to stay with him, but you should go ahead without me." "Are you serious? If your dad is sick, there's no way I'm leaving for our honeymoon." "Who even goes on a honeymoon alone?" I asked. I wanted to know which hospital his dad was taken to, but Mark refused to tell me. "If I tell you, you'll come visit, won't you?" he asked. Of course I would. Dad knows how excited you were about the honeymoon, and he insisted you should still go. Please respect his wishes, Mark said firmly. There's no way I could enjoy myself with this happening. Are you at least planning to join me once your dad feels better? I asked. Of course, I'll come as soon as things are settled here, he replied. Don't say as soon as things are settled. That sounds bad. Please, let me handle this. Sarah, just go to Italy as planned, he said. I'm almost at the hospital, so I won't be able to take any calls. Talk to you later. Wait, Mark, I called out, but he hung up before I could say more. I immediately tried to call him back, but his phone was turned off. I didn't even know the name of the hospital, so I couldn't check on his father. I felt completely helpless. Just then, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, my legs nearly gave out. Father-in-law, I gasped. Standing in front of me was my father-in-law, who was supposedly in the hospital after collapsing. Your legs, are you okay? I thought you were in the hospital, I stammered. He looked confused. What are you talking about? I feel fine. I just drank a bit too much at a wedding yesterday, but I was fine by the time I woke up. I'd even drove here to pick you up. To pick me up? Yeah, I dropped Mark off at the station for your honeymoon and realized I should have come to get you, too. Let me take you to LaGuardia. I stared at him, stunned. My father-in-law, who was supposed to be in the hospital, seemed perfectly fine, and Mark, who claimed he was rushing to his father's side, had instead been dropped off at the station. Nothing was adding up. Then something clicked. LaGuardia, I asked, but our flight to Italy is leaving from JFK, not LaGuardia. Oh yes, that's what I thought too. My father-in-law said. I was surprised when Mark told me this morning that you two had changed your plans last minute and decided to go to Alaska instead. Alaska, I repeated, completely confused. Yeah, Mark said we're heading to Alaska. He even left a note in the car. My father-in-law handed me a post-it Mark had left in the back seat. It had the name of an inn in Alaska and a flight from LaGuardia to Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport written on it. As soon as I saw it, everything started to make sense. Could you please take me to LaGuardia after all? I asked. Of course, there shouldn't be much traffic. We'll probably get there around the same time as Mark's train, he replied. Thank you so much. During the drive, I couldn't stop thinking about Mark's actions. Was my suspicion right? I'd find out as soon as I saw him at the airport. When we arrived, I thanked my father-in-law and headed inside. Near the check-in counter for the flight on the post-it, I spotted Mark immediately. He was arm in arm with a young woman, laughing as they picked out drinks together. I knew it. He had been cheating on me all along. The affair probably started while we were living together. That explained why he hesitated to get married. And now, instead of going on our honeymoon, he was heading off with his mistress. I walked right up to him. Mark, just exiting the store with drinks in hand, frownsy when he saw me. His jaw dropped. Sarah, what are you doing here? Right back at you. Why are you? Who should be at the hospital with your father, here at the airport? I just came to, do some shopping, he stammered. Shopping? You came all the way to LaGuardia to buy a bottle of water. Yeah, Deb was begging for some airport water, he said, fumbling for words. Funny you say that, I said coolly, because I was just with your father. He came to pick me up himself. He seemed perfectly fine. Yeah, after we talked, he suddenly recovered. His vitality always amazes me, Mark said, trying desperately to keep up the lie. I stared at him, deciding to see how far he'd go. So, who is this woman, and where were you two planning on going? She's a nurse, he said. Yeah, she's the nurse who took care of Dad. We're going to Alaska to check out a rehabilitation facility for him. His excuse was so ridiculous, I couldn't help but sigh. Enough, Mark, your lies are giving me a headache. It's not a lie. She really is. Mark's words were cut off by a voice from behind. My what? We both turned around. Standing there was Mark's father. Father-in-law, I thought you went home, I exclaimed, surprised to see him. I noticed something seemed off. Sarah, he replied, so I parked the car and followed you. Looks like I made the right decision. With his father standing in front of him, Mark's lies began to crumble, and he started acting nervous. So, who is this woman? My father-in-law asked in a stern tone. She's, Mark stammered, struggling for words. Before he could finish, the woman next to him spoke up confidently. I'm Amy, Mark's girlfriend. Mark's eyes widened, and he quickly tried to cover her mouth. Hey, don't say that. Why not? Amy said, shaking him off. Mark, you don't even love your wife. Just hurry up and divorce her already. What? Stop talking, Mark hissed. Why should I? Amy shot back. You promised you'd leave her for me. Isn't that why you chose to come with me today? That's because you threatened me, Mark blurted. You said, if you don't come to Alaska with me, I'll expose our relationship. Hearing this, I gave him a cold look. So, to be clear, you've been having an affair with this woman. Amy glared at me. It's not an affair. Mark and I are serious about each other. He never even wanted to marry you. By now, I didn't even feel like arguing anymore. That's fine. Do as you please, I said, walking away. Leaving the two of them standing there, my father-in-law and I exited the airport. 5 days later, Mark rang the doorbell. I answered through the intercom. Sarah, I can't unlock the door. Can you let me in? Oh, about that, I said calmly. I changed the locks. You what? Why would you do that without telling me? I don't like the idea of a stranger having a key to my home, I replied. A stranger? Are you calling me a stranger? Who else would I be talking about? I said flatly. The divorce papers are ready. Just sign them and leave. Wait, Sarah, let me in first. We can't talk after. Without opening the door, I slid the divorce papers through the small gap. There's nothing to talk about. Sign the papers and leave immediately. Don't be so angry, Mark protested. I've decided to break up with Amy. Ah, I said, raising an eyebrow. She's terrible, he complained. I only went to Alaska because she threatened me, and the whole trip was awful. All she did was complain about the inn being old-fashioned and the bad weather. It wasn't fun at all. So, I told her clearly, I have no intention of divorcing my wife. Please don't divorce me, Mark pleaded. I don't care whether you and Amy break up or not, I replied coldly. The only choice here is divorce. Even if you refuse, I'm going through with it. Don't say that. Are you mad because we didn't go to Italy? It's not too late. We can't go now. Are you out of your mind? I snapped. How can you even suggest that? You canceled our honeymoon to take your mistress on a trip instead. There's no reasoning with someone like you. I passed the divorce papers through the crack in the door, along with another document. What's this? Mark asked, eyeing the paper suspiciously. It's a payment agreement, I explained. It includes alimony and the cancellation fee for our honeymoon. Why should I pay alimony? I don't want a divorce. You're the one insisting on it. And what's this cancellation fee about? Because we couldn't get a refund for the honeymoon you canceled on the day of the trip, I said firmly. You're the reason we didn't go, so you're paying for it. I told you to go by yourself, Mark argued. Not going was your decision. How could I possibly go on our honeymoon alone? On top of that, you lied about your father being critically ill to cover up your affair. There was no way I could have gone in that situation. I really wanted to go to Italy with you too, he mumbled, but Amy threatened me. She said she'd expose me at work if I didn't go to Alaska with her. You wouldn't want your husband to lose his job, would you? She threatened to expose you, I asked, feigning concern. Yeah, she would have done it too. It's all Amy's fault. Sure, Amy sounded unpredictable enough to declare herself Mark's girlfriend to me, but that only reassured me. With someone like her, Mark would ruin himself eventually. All I had to do was get him to sign the papers. Pretending to be worried, I said, Are you sure it's safe for you to be here? Didn't you say Amy was angry when you broke up with her? She was furious, Mark admitted, but I'm done with her now. Even so, with her personality, I wouldn't be surprised if she showed up at your office to expose you. Mark paled. That would be a disaster. I need to get to the office and stop her. Sure, I said, but don't you need your company key card? I pulled the card out of his drawer and dangled it in front of him. Yeah, that's it. Please hand it over, Mark begged, reaching through the gap in the door. I quickly pulled it back. I'll give you the key card after you sign the divorce papers and the payment agreement. Mark hesitated, but I pressed him further. You'd better hurry, I added. Amy might already be on her way to your office. Faced with the urgency, Mark finally gave in and agreed to sign. Reluctantly, Mark signed all the documents and slid them back through the door. Here, this is good enough, right? Now give me the key card. I handed him the key card, and Mark bolted off, rushing to his office. Once he was gone, I went straight to the courthouse to submit the divorce papers. I also handed the signed payment agreement to my lawyer. It was a relief to know the financial issues were settled. The next day, my phone rang unexpectedly. Hello, I answered. Sarah, wait, don't hang up. Mark sounded frantic. We're legally strangers now, Mark, I said. There's nothing left for us to discuss. Please, just listen, he pleaded. Feeling a bit curious, I decided to hear him out. Fine, what do you want? When I got to the office today, I was called in by the board. Everyone knows about my affair, even though I got there before Amy. It's like they were already expecting it. Isn't that strange? Oh, that's because I told them, I said casually. You what? You told the board? Well, I felt sorry for them, I explained. They came to our wedding, but we got divorced so soon. I figured they deserved to know the reason. Wait, you didn't just tell the board, did you? Mark asked, his voice shaking. Nope, I told everyone at your office. When I explained that my husband chose a vacation over our honeymoon, they were all appalled. How am I supposed to face everyone at work now? He shouted. You don't have to hide your true self anymore. Isn't that a good thing? I said, feigning innocence. Don't mess with me. You ruined my life. I should be the one saying that to you, I replied sharply. I only wish I could reclaim the 5 years I wasted on someone like you. With that, I hung up, feeling nothing but relief that it was finally over. When I raised my voice, Mark had nothing more to say. Why don't you just stay with Amy? If her feelings for you are so strong, wouldn't she support you even if you quit your job? I asked. No way. Nothing good ever happens when I'm with that woman, Mark protested. The only one who can truly support me is you, Sarah. Well, nothing good happens when I'm with you, I replied sharply. If you want support, maybe you should start thinking about other people's feelings before you act. I regret everything, Sarah. Let's try again, he pleaded. No chance, I said firmly. How about reflecting on your mistakes, turning over a new leaf, and getting back into the dating scene? Oh, and maybe find a job first. Sarah, don't abandon me. You're the one who betrayed me first. Now you'll have to live with your regret, I said before ending the call. After that, Mark went back to his parents' house a few times to borrow money, but his father was furious. Not only had Mark falsely claimed his father was gravely ill to cover up his affair, but he'd also used that lie to cancel our honeymoon. Eventually, his father cut ties with him. Mark found it unbearable to stay at his company after everything came to light and ended up quitting. He struggled to find a new job and is now barely making ends meet by working part-time at a convenience store. As for me, I used the alimony I received from Mark to move into a new home. Even though I had changed the locks, living in a place he knew about just didn't feel right. Mark's parents, probably feeling guilty for their son's behavior, helped me with the move. I still occasionally meet up with them for chats or meals. They've been supportive, even though their son wasn't. The 5 years I spent with Mark are gone, but I'm ready to move forward and find someone better next time.